Hello, it's good to have you with us on this Sunday evening. I'm Daniel Choi for Arirang News. Well, tensions between North Korea and the United States seem to be on the rise yet again, following Pyongyang's offer to suspend its nuclear activities if Seoul and Washington cancel an upcoming joint military drill. The U.S. called Pyongyang's offer an implicit threat and said the exercises will go on as planned. Our Hwang Sung-hee starts us off.
The United States has rejected North Korea's offer to temporarily suspend nuclear tests in exchange for an end to joint military exercises between Seoul and Washington. This comes after North Korea's foreign ministry said Saturday that it had made the offer through a relevant channel a day earlier. U.S. State Department spokesperson Jen Psaki said Saturday North Korea's proposal that inappropriately links routine military drills to the possibility of a nuclear test is an implicit threat. She added that a fresh nuclear test would be a clear violation of Pyongyang's obligations under multiple UN Security Council resolutions, as well as its own commitments as outlined in a joint six-party statement in 2005. The joint military exercises between Seoul and Washington, scheduled for sometime between February and March, have long upset Pyongyang. North Korea claims it's a practice for war, while South Korea and the U.S. say it is purely defensive in nature. A halt to the annual drills was also a precondition to better inter-Korean ties laid out in North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's New Year speech. Psaki reiterated that Washington remains open to dialogue with the North, but only if the regime ends all threats and takes the necessary steps toward denuclearization. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
And North Korea has once again denied its involvement in the hacking of Sony Pictures. In an editorial on Saturday, the Chosun Shinbo, the North's mouthpiece in Japan, said North Korean Foreign Minister Ri Su-yong had sent a letter expressing his condolences to the French Foreign Minister over the recent attacks there and claimed it remains opposed to supporting terrorist activities. It went on to say that the international media has repeated Washington's claims by linking the recent tragedy in France to the hacking of Sony Pictures. The editorial said North Korea condemns the U.S. government's claims that Pyongyang is behind the cyber attack on Sony for the release of the movie The Interview. President Park Geun-hye is expected to lay out her policies for 2015 in a New Year's press conference on Monday. The event will be the second of its kind since she took office nearly 2 years ago. In her speech, President Park is expected to unveil her policies on North Korea and propose ways to revitalize the economy. This year is the last in a 3-year economic revitalization plan President Park laid out when she took office. Attention is focused on whether the president will talk about reshuffling her staff following a document leak scandal that rocked the political arena. For our live coverage of the president's press conference on Monday morning, join us at 10 a.m. Korea time. French police are continuing their search for a woman tied to the attacks on a satirical paper last week as they prepare for a massive unity rally on Sunday. Our Connie Kim has this report.
A woman suspecting of being an accomplice in a shooting that followed the attacks on a satirical French publication and a Jewish supermarket last week may have left France days before the attacks. French police launched a search for 26-year-old Hayat Boumediene after police shot her partner, Amadi Coulibaly, on Friday in the kosher supermarket where 4 hostages were killed. Coulibaly was named in the killing of a policewoman last Thursday. A Turkish intelligence official told the Associated Press that a woman by the same name arrived in Istanbul on January 2nd. Turkish authorities say Boumediene traveled to Sanlierfa, a Turkish city near the Syrian border, 2 days later and then disappeared. The attack on the paper that satirized Islam and other religions has raised questions about freedom of speech, religion, and security in a country that's home to more than 5 million Muslims. Hundreds of thousands are expected at a mass rally in Paris on Sunday, after thousands more participated in marches a previous day to honor the victims. Sunday's rally has been characterized as a call for unity against extremism.
Each citizen must come with only one idea in their head, unity with the values of the Republic of tolerance to fight against racism and anti-Semitism. This is what will bring us together in the future.
Approximately 40 heads of state, including Israeli Prime Minister and the Palestinian President, are expected to attend Sunday's rally. Thousands of police officers have already been posted at synagogues and mosques ahead of the event. France is maintaining its high security level in light of the events that started with the attack on the French weekly Charlie Hebdo, in which 17 people and 3 hostage takers were killed over 3 days last week. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Indonesian search and rescue teams may be one step closer to finding the black boxes of the missing AirAsia flight QZ8501 that crashed December 28th. An official involved in the search said a sonar scan has revealed an object resembling the body of the plane on the sea floor. He told Reuters there is a big possibility that the black boxes are nearby. Searchers have been hearing intermittent underwater ping-like sounds believed to be from the flight data recorders. The sounds were coming from near where the tail of the plane was raised on Saturday, but the black boxes were not recovered as hoped. It now seems the pings were coming from another source. And the latest coming in from Indonesia is that the authorities have confirmed 2 of the Korean passengers who were on board the tragic flight. The bodies of those passengers were retrieved recently. Moving on to other stories, Korea is expected to record yet another tax deficit this year. In other words, for 4 years in a row. According to a parliamentary report, the nation's budget deficit could surpass an earlier estimate of 3.4 trillion won, or around $3.1 billion this year. Lower than predicted economic growth and inflation are viewed as the main factors at play. The National Assembly Budget Office in October predicted the government would collect 218.2 trillion won in taxes, with the expectation of a tax revenue shortfall of over 3 trillion won of this year. But the report shows that state tax income will be lower than that, as the government cut this year's growth projection from 3.8% to 3.5% amid falling oil prices. This is expected to dent the nation's tax revenue shortage more than expected. And it looks like the Korean government's efforts to revitalize the property market have had the desired effect, as the country's home sales hit an 8-year high last year. The Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport says the number of housing transactions surged 18% to surpass the 1 million mark for the first time since the year 2006. The number of housing transactions in Seoul soared 32.5% over the previous year to more than 148,000 last year, increasing 11.1% in rural areas. Various government measures, including relaxed rules on home-backed bank loans and a 10-year reduction in the minimum age of housing units eligible for reconstruction, may have helped breathe new life into the housing market. 2015, this year, is expected to be a great one for Korea's IT industry, but there are dark shadows looming over the auto industry and others. That's according to a report by the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry that predicts a rosy 2015 for the IT industry, thanks to a continued rise in chip exports and new smartphone technologies. On the flip side, though, a weak yen and aggressive marketing by Japanese rivals could hit Korean automakers hard, with exports expected to grow by just 1.3% this year. Construction companies can anticipate a 2% drop in overseas contracts, and there are tough times ahead for shipbuilders amid greater competition from China and Japan. Korean steelmakers are also likely to struggle, as demand in China, which uses nearly half of the world's steel, is expected to slow down. Researchers have developed a brain map standardized specifically for Koreans. It's expected to not only help local doctors, but advance treatments for patients with brain damage. Our Kim Hyun-bin reports.
Korean scientists have developed a brain map specific to the physiology of Koreans that they say can be used not only to detect disease, but also determine the health of one's brain. They created it by analyzing the MRIs of over 2,700 patients with acute brain damage.
This is the first ever Korean standardized brain map that we were able to develop after analyzing patients' MRI and setting up a big data system to collect information. This was made through numerous testing.
A 43-year-old and a 71-year-old patient compared their MRIs to the brain map on a scale of 1 to 100. The 43-year-old gets a 50, while the other a 25. Researchers say the higher the number, the more severe a patient's condition, meaning the patient in his 40s is in need of immediate treatment.
This chart could rate a brain damage patient's severity in 100 levels. It ranks the amount of brain damage a patient suffers. This is expected to help doctors treat and evaluate patients.
With doctors nationwide being provided this free, standardized brain map, it's hoped that medical officials will be better equipped to more accurately diagnose and treat their Korean patients. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
And now the weather. Koreans can expect clear skies nationwide on Monday morning, a most welcome change, but temperatures will drop drastically with the mercury going below -8 in Seoul, so dress warm on Monday morning. And now let's check out the weather conditions outside of Korea, around the world. Well, that does it for us for now. More coming up at 10 p.m. Korea time, so do join us then. Thank you for watching.